My name is Patrick Gorman, and I am a pen tester, content creator, and educator.
Yeah, Patrick, tell me how you got into content creator, educator. Tell me that story.
5 years ago, me and a couple friends were studying for a certification. It's called PCNSE from Palo Alto. So for an example, we have Richard, we have Scott, we have Pat. We're all studying for this. Richard is good at VPNs, Pat sucks at static routing. So we're gonna teach each other each topic. Like, you're bad at this, so you have to teach me what you're bad at, and I'm bad at something. So we're teaching each other's weakness so we can gather strength. And my friend Ken said, hey, Kenny. So you're like, hey man, like you should put this on YouTube. And I'm like, I never used YouTube before in my life, but all right. So I was like, I put my microphone on, or my little headset. I learned about OBS Studio. I learned about DaVinci Resolve. So, I didn't know jack. So I was just like tinkering with this, and then that's how I got into the world of like content creation. And then speaking is pretty much similar. Like, I enjoy giving back to the community. I love helping people. So it's like, if I can just give this much, for someone might be a mile, but maybe for you it's just a little bit. So that's pretty much how I got into all three of those.
Yeah, you've been fairly successful on YouTube, right? What kind of stuff do you post now? What kind of content are you putting out there?
Every Thursday I have a podcast or like a little show called Thirsty Thursday. So I bring people on, hear their story, and all my other content is most like CTF walkthroughs and just stuff that I'm learning, or if I pass the certification, I'll do a review on that and give my honest opinion. That's one thing about me as a person. I'm very, very honest. Some people don't like that. I don't sugarcoat it. I just say it how it is and give it to you raw.
Yeah, in your opinion, why is cyber exciting? Why should someone think about or consider learning cyber or getting into cybersecurity?
Ooh, that's a big one. I think the importance of it, I think that's the reason, because everything is going cyber. You have a TV at home, like I showcase little things with a little flipper. A flipper zero is a little device that you can use for hacking. And then there's other stuff like, hacking Wi-Fi and all this stuff. So the importance of just securing those endpoints. And now the cool thing is, like, if I'm doing on a pen test, maybe you have EDRs, which is endpoint detection and response, like CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Microsoft MDE. Blue teamers are getting really, really good at securing those endpoints. How can I get into your environment? Maybe you have a CCTV, maybe you have a camera that has old firmware. We can leverage that as a SCADA or IoT device. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, absolutely. You threw out a lot of acronyms, you threw out a lot of concepts, right? For a complete beginner, where do you recommend they start when they're interested and want to learn about all this?
Cybersecurity, in my opinion, is not an entry-level career. So I would say take a step back. If you see all the Mr. Robots out there, the Mr. Hackers and all that stuff, they went through the trenches to get there. Sure. So let's take a step back, Mr. Noob. And what we're gonna do is learn operating systems. Okay. Linux, Windows, Mac. Learn something about networking. What is a router? What is a switch? What is an access point? And how do we configure these? If I go on the internet, when you go on google.com, what exactly is happening? Getting into cyber, there's some preliminary steps. So going back to your question, learning some of the basics, you can learn it on platforms like TryHackMe, Hack the Box, and there's other like A+, get your A+ from CompTIA, Network Plus, Security Plus. And me personally, this is my recommendation, I always say CCNA, which is from Cisco Certified Network Associate. I have friends that have a CCNA that never did the Network Plus, so CCNA, you're learning more about the Cisco technology. But if I say, hey Rich, I want you to go in and patch down a Cat 6 cable, and you have to understand what is 586B and what is 586A. You don't learn that inside of CCNA, so having that gap filled is definitely educational, and it's important.
What do you think employers are looking for in a good candidate? What makes a good candidate a kind of cyber role as they're breaking in?
If you're trying to get in, there's a few things I always recommend on my podcast, on my coaching, everything. Learn hands-on. Hands-on, you can do all the, like we just said, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, all the multiple choice question exams, but it doesn't mean that you can do it. So how can you leverage and how can you showcase your portfolio or your CV or your resume? Put up projects on like GitHub or GitLab. Make YouTube videos. You don't have to show your face because I know some people love their privacy. You can even get as granular as changing your voice. But do videos and just do things that you're learning and putting it out on LinkedIn or Twitter or these kinds of platforms just to get you seen. Because maybe you're working at Giuseppe's Pizzeria today, but you wanted to get into the world, and maybe you've always been a little nerd, but you just never transition because Poppy owns this restaurant and you're just a family restaurant, but your passion is cyber. So showcase your interest, showcase your passion. Because me as a hiring manager, I don't know what your passion is, but if I research you on LinkedIn or anything like that, I'm like, oh, Giuseppe is really good with AppSec or pen testing, Active Directory or whatever, and he showcases that he did maybe some certifications. And the cool thing about cybersecurity or pen testing specifically, a lot of the certifications are hands-on. You have to demonstrate your skills. You have to write a report, and you have to be approved by the committee of the organization, Hack the Box, TCM, OffSec, whomever. So that really shows like the employer, whoever's hiring you, if they have these credentials, these acronyms behind their name, they know something. It's not like an A+, you can go cram on a dump and just like learn about a bunch of questions and memorize it. This, you have to really do it. So yeah, that would be my answer for that.
Thanks for that, thanks for sharing. In any career, in any industry, I think learning from people who have more experience than you is very important, right? Mm-hmm. Who are your mentors, who are your advisors, and how do you recommend folks approach mentors and find people to mentor them?
Oh, this is lovely because I went through the world of CBT nuggets. And CBT stands for computer-based training. So there was a guy, I love him so much, Keith Barker. So Keith Barker was my mentor without even him knowing he was my mentor. So I would watch his videos, I'd take so many notes, and I'm gonna put this out there, like sometimes it takes me a little longer to learn a concept than maybe the next person. So the way he breaks down concepts, it's elementary, to keep it politically correct, right? So it's like he makes it elementary for you, so it's like, okay, wow, it clicks, you know what I mean? Like, but if someone else taught that, for example, subnetting is a really hard topic for a lot of people. So it's like, okay, like basic binary and hex, he made it so simple. So Keith Barker was my mentor, and how I got him to be, now he's my friend and I can call him and I'm super, super grateful. What I did, I just hit him up on LinkedIn one day and I said, hey, Keith, I just want to say thank you for everything you've done. And he goes, awesome, I've seen your work too. And this is before I had a YouTube. I would just share little things on LinkedIn. And he goes, thank you for the little, the stuff that you put out is not just little things that you probably think it's just like, people are reading that. Whoever you resonate with, anyone out there that's, you look up to or you enjoy their content, just reach out. We're all human. Like, no, this is my thing. I'm not better than you. You're not better than me. That dude's not better than me. I'm not better. We all have our niche. We all have our thing. Some of these people, obviously, they get a million quadrillion messages. So if you don't get to them or if they don't get to you, don't take it personal. I just want to throw that out there too.
Tell us a little bit about where we are, what this event is, and why it's important to go to things like this.
Yeah, so we're at HackSpaceCon in Cape Canaveral, Florida. And I think it's super important to get to conferences and get yourself out there, because if you're looking for a job, right? You're talking about entry-level folks, people that are looking for jobs. You're going against someone like myself or someone against like the next person. You're submitting your resume to an ATS system, and now you're competing with every single person, right? So for example, yesterday we had someone in your seat, or I was in their seat, whatever. And after I was just like, hey, like talking to them, shooting a smack, and are you hiring? Oh, snap, yeah, we are. And just like, now if the traditional way, if someone just shot their resume, maybe it would have been through an ATS system, got an auto decline because maybe they looked for an example, a certification that you don't have. But if you shake hands with the person, make
that's right,
a relationship, a connection, a genuine connection, that's the importance of any conference, HackSpaceCon, B-Sides, any of these intimate, small conferences. DEF CON is cool, Black Hat is cool, but that's more, it's a bigger conference. So if you're looking to get into the field, these conferences, the smaller, intimate ones, are definitely better to go to, in my opinion.
To wrap up here, any fun cyber stories that you can share with us?
Remind me, did I tell you how I got into the world of cyber?
Tell me again.
So, I don't know, I've been speaking for hours, but so my story is a little unique. I want to go back to my childhood, and then so it gives you a little perspective. I grew up in a city called East New York, Brooklyn, East New York, and the only Caucasian kid on my block, right? So I want to say it like that. I was the only Caucasian kid on my block, grew up on welfare, grew up with food stamps, the whole shebang. Was it going to be amount to nothing? And like if I didn't get off that block, I was going to end up north or south, So I fast forward, I started going to John Adams High School in Queens, New York, until 11th grade. And then I had a little bit of a situation. My mother passed away, and then I moved down to, here we are in Florida. I moved to South Florida with my uncle. So my uncle brought me down here because, I was still a minor. I didn't have anywhere to go, or just go with him or go into a home. And then I came down here, finished high school. I started working with my uncle as an electrician. So I was like, okay, I want to be an electrician. This is the right thing to do. It's better than staying on the streets, right? Right. So I was an electrician for a year and a half. And then a friend of my uncle was like, Pat, you should get into computers. I literally said, I'm not going to say what I said, but I'm like, I don't think I'm smart enough for computers, right? So I'm like, I don't know if I'm smart enough, Jay. His name is Jason. I was like, well, we'll see. And he's like, yeah, come to my office. You can be a bench tech. And I was a bench tech. I took a hard, because I used to take apart VCRs back then. So I always liked to take apart things. I didn't know what a capacitor was. I didn't know a motherboard or a circuit board. I just knew I loved to twist them off and solder them back on, and I really didn't know what I was doing. And then I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I started installing operating systems, installing hard drives, and doing all like the physical stuff on the computer setups, building them. And then I got my A+ certification, Network Plus certification, and then Security Plus and Linux Plus, and all the pluses. And then I'm like, okay, what is the next thing? Okay, system engineering. So we started installing something called Active Directory and Windows servers and networks and learning all this stuff. And then fast forward, I'm like, what is the next thing? The next thing, at least back then, it was like system engineer, and then you become a network engineer. And that's where the next big dollar was. And then I started network engineer, Cisco stuff, Palo Alto, blah, 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 Juniper. And then I got my PayPal hacked. So I got my PayPal hacked. I was selling sneakers on eBay because I was always a sneakerhead. Till this day, I have about 300 pairs of sneakers. And then I got my PayPal hacked, and I never wanted to go to school. School was not for me. I was never into school, but I always felt smart because, off camera we talked about learning languages. I always enjoyed learning languages, the sounds of it, the pronunciations, and it always came super easy. So I was like, okay, maybe some part of, reading was difficult for me, but if you tell me something in whatever language, I'll remember it. Like I have some kind of memory. So then, fast forward, and I started getting into cybersecurity and starting to, do some hacking, semi-illegal stuff, I guess, like stuff that you just like hacking your neighbor's Wi-Fi and then going on the internet, just like using IOBit and like, setting up hack and DDoSing. And I never played video games really, but I had friends that played video games. I'm like, okay, like we can try to take over their accounts and stuff like that. And that's how I got into the world of hacking and then doing it. And I'm like, okay, we can do this ethically. We can get paid for this. Cool. Then you started going down the track of certifications, and then fast forward, and then I started doing that ethically. And now it's been 12 years.
That's real cool. Yeah. Hey man, thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for all this. Thanks for sharing your story.
Appreciate
really cool.
it. Much love.